Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Net Show. As doctors, we see a lot of people who sadly go down the wrong road with each passing year. And we are going to talk about how anybody out there can stay as healthy as possible for as long as possible, entirely naturally. And we also have our own channel now where we talk about a lot of these issues, the three of us. And you can check that out in the links down below in the description. So let's start off by talking about some of the most important things that anybody out there, particularly over the age of 60, can start thinking about in terms of how to stay healthy very naturally indeed.
That's such a great topic, Suneel. And really, what I drive and what I drive to you is that healthy aging doesn't necessarily mean anti-aging. So, just because you're turning 80 or 85 or 70 or above 65, it doesn't mean that you have to be 35 again. Embrace the age you're at and improve quality of life. And I think that's what we really want to drive home today is what we know as doctors, what we've seen as collective experience through the years that we want to impart to you guys.
Oh, absolutely. And I think there are many different factors that affect this and affect how you age and how you remain healthy as you do so. I think one of the big ones that I've encountered a lot is socialization. We're very social animals. I mean, that interaction that we have with other people is extremely important. There have been a lot of studies that showed the importance of socialization. We saw that during COVID, we were all isolated, and that was absolutely horrible for people's health and for outcomes. And we saw that in the data as well, and we saw it in our patients and in ourselves, how badly we did when we were isolated like that. So working really hard to be more social and have more interactions, I think is a really important part of aging, staying healthy.
Yeah, that's so true. And I know it's kind of a cliche because I've talked about it in my videos. Of course, you want to be with good company. This is not about being with people who stress you out or annoy you, but most people out there are social animals. And nowadays, the great thing is that with the online world, you can find like-minded people. And there have been, as Ben said, multiple studies on this very issue that anybody, as they get older, the statistics show people sadly can become a bit more isolated. And that is very detrimental for people's physical and mental health. So whatever way you can find to socialize more, if you're not already, is a wonderful thing. Events in the community, find online groups, many different things that anybody out there can do.
That's such a great point, Suneel. And your retirement doesn't necessarily mean isolation. And there are so many ways you can impart this in your life with social media, just connecting with people, even connecting with friends and build your own pod of friends that appreciate who you are and who don't stress you out.
Yep. And even better if you can make that something which involves movement. So walking groups, exercise, hiking, all of these things are really, really important. And to draw on our experiences as we want to do with each of these points, I would say that when I see patients in the hospital in their 80s and 90s, the healthiest ones I see really have very strong social connections. I see that as a recurrent theme.
And we've seen that in countries around the world, and especially if you look in places like Singapore, how just socialization is really promoted, by the government there, and really just making sure that you're staying in touch with your kids and living close by, because that's so important. And family is so important. And if you don't have family, reach out to a close friend because they probably want the same thing that you do.
It is indeed. Yep. So there you go. That's the first point. Then the next key point here in terms of anybody who wants to age in a healthy way is to really think about what one is eating. This becomes much more important with each passing year because insulin resistance, which I've talked about many times, is a true pandemic. Many people over the age of 60 have a degree of insulin resistance. And the key is to focus on a nutritious diet and being very careful with those processed foods, sugars, optimizing proteins. In my opinion, the best meal you can have is a protein with 2 vegetables at the side, antioxidants. That's a great, simple meal. And I'm sure many of you growing up, if you're in this demographic, that was probably what you ate when you were young. You didn't have all these processed foods.
And it's so true. It's such a challenge, not to have processed foods. But we know that good gut health actually reduces things like inflammation and energy levels. And people who eat poorly don't have as much energy and their moods can swing. And so that just overall, really just increases your quality of life, right? And that's really kind of what's about. I mean, I see a lot of patients with quality of life, but really the quality of life is what matters the most.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And I think one of the big problems I see is with snacking. That becomes a really common phenomenon where people are snacking around the house when they're eating a forward diet. And that's something you can definitely work on too. Just making sure that you get rid of the unhealthy choices in your house. You get those things out of your house and you make sure you're having more and more whole foods. And I'm telling you, it has profound effects on the way you think, the way you move, everything. So I think that's a huge, huge part of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of tempting snacks around. And there's a phenomenon known as the tea and toast diet. For many people, as they get older, sadly, this can go with isolation as well, where people are just eating way too many carbs and they're drinking tea. Not that tea is a bad thing, but it's called the tea and toast diet. But really focus on the proteins, antioxidants. And if you're insulin resistant, have pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, the more that you can naturally reverse that, the better it is ultimately for your health, reducing inflammation. And there are many cellular processes like oxidative stress, mitochondrial dysfunction, which can improve. And cellular function is really key to healthy aging.
It's so true. We know that eating plant-forward foods, you don't need to be on a plant-based diet, but just incorporate that more into your diet. And as a cardiologist, I even recognize this more, is that this helps inflammation. And reducing inflammation also reduces things like joint pain, which is probably the thing that bothers you the most. And I always joke with my patients, I maybe should be a cardiologist and an orthopedic doctor because really, blood pressure is not what's affecting you. High cholesterol is not what's affecting you. It's really like the joint pain. Every single patient, lots of patients I have come in and it's their hip, knee, trouble. And that's what affects quality of life. And really, if you can guide and eat better to make that better, why not?
Yeah, becomes more important with
it's
each
a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. It is challenging. It's hard, and often people have to really push themselves a bit. And we appreciate that it can be very difficult. How about exercise, just movement?
Great question. So, I think a lot of people think of exercise as going to the gym. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to set these hours apart and I'm going to go exercise. I think that's great, but not all exercise has to be at the gym. You can exercise by just being very active. You could do something you love doing just very consistently. Moving is very important, and strengthening as you get older becomes extremely important. You want to keep your protein up by building muscle or trying to at least maintain. And you also want to be, keeping your bones healthy by strengthening. So it's important to be moving a lot, but also be keeping up your strength. So try to do activities that keep your strength up.
It's so true. I mean, regular low impact exercise. I mean, we're not expecting you to go out running or doing anything that's going to really harm your joints. But you need to find something you love. And that's always what I've done throughout my life. And I think that's really important. That's why I really try to impart to patients is, take 30 minutes out of a 24-hour day. That's really not a lot of time if you think about it. Sometimes we think more about not doing something than actually just doing it. And if you do that regularly, and we'll be realistic, you're not going to do it every day, but if you can do it 3 to 5 days a week, you feel so much better afterwards.
I completely agree. Like a strength training routine, just light dumbbells, super light dumbbells, alternating the upper, lower body, some core exercises, just 3 days a week for 20 to 30 minutes can be transformative. I personally feel this is an area where many people over the age of 65 don't tick the box, but it can have enormous benefits in terms of guarding against many of the effects of aging and slowing down the processes. So yeah, moving as much as possible, even if it's just walking and strength training can make all the difference. Stress, so much stress out there. And it's funny because I talk to many people who say, oh, we thought after we retired and our children moved out of home and had their own lives that we wouldn't be stressed, but frequently stress is ubiquitous. Everybody knows this. What are your thoughts on how people can deal with stress and how it's a bad thing?
Well, I think we can't avoid stress. I mean, we can avoid stress. I guess the better thing is like, how do you manage stress? Because stress is everywhere. And I think you can try to figure out something to get rid of the stress, but it's going to pop up here. So, we know that stress increases cortisol levels, and cortisol is a stress hormone in your body. That's why people have major cardiovascular events in the middle of the night when these cortisol levels are spiking in the morning. And it's really just about, again, just going back to low impact exercise has always been a great stress reduction. And really, I've had the privilege of taking care of a lot of patients, and patients have lived beyond 100. And I'm telling you, all the patients that live beyond 100 that I know of and have taken care of, they all exercise regularly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's funny. I had a patient in the other day, and they had very high blood pressure, and they had a number of other problems, and they were feeling very anxious. And I found out they were watching news channels about 6 hours a day. So I said, your homework assignment, you're going to go home and you're going to turn off the news. And they did. And they came back in a month. And guess what? Almost all of it was better. Their blood pressure was so much better. They were so much less anxious. Now, I'm not saying all of you need to turn the news off, but what I am saying is find that thing that's stressing you out and find a way to deal with it and find a way to put it where it belongs. And I think, Peter's absolutely right. Stress is unavoidable. It's going to come at us, but, we can pick and choose a little bit, and we can also choose the way we handle it sometimes. So I think understanding where it's coming from and finding ways to handle it are absolutely mandatory in terms of dealing with stress.
And so too, you can control your own narrative, right? I mean, you can pick and choose the people you hang out with. At this point, you have the wisdom to know who are the people in your life that add stress for the situations you do. And again, it'll be everywhere, but it's just managing it better.
It is, yeah. And I always tell people, well, it's easier said than done, but think very carefully. What are your sources of stress and what can you do to take your mind to a better place? I mean, stress might not be possible to eliminate, but what works for you? Go for a walk in nature, go out with your dog, watch a comedy show, hang out with friends. But the more you do that and lower your cortisol levels, the better. So that would be stress. Hopefully you can work on that if that's a problem for you. How about sleep? Is that a big problem as well, especially with people who are over 60?
Yeah, so sleep as you age often becomes harder to achieve. There's a lot more insomnia. That's a big thing that we see in the office is pretty severe insomnia. We've talked about this before, but sleep hygiene is extremely important. And that's, making sure the devices are turned off. It's making sure you're getting exercise so that you're appropriately tired by the time you go to bed. That you're not going to bed too early, because sometimes that can affect it, that the room is dark and cold, and that, and then that we've talked about this before, but not necessarily using sleep aids. Sleep aids they can cause a lot of problems. They often don't allow you to enter the deep levels of sleep that you actually need. And de-stressing is a big part of getting good sleep.
Sure, yeah. I mean, you can say that, sleep is a new superpower. And I think as you get older, I mean, I know I see a lot of patients, and the one thing that always bothers people is you sleep less as you get older, and that can be just a change in your body and thinking about things. But in the cardiovascular world, in the heart world, where I spend most of my time in, is we know that people get less than 6 hours of sleep a night are increased risk of heart disease. Because remember, when we talk about sleep, we're talking about energy. Mood, but what we're really talking about just from a metabolic level is sleep shuts down your body. And so it's a time that your body repairs inflammation. And so, joint pain, heart disease, all that, can go down with good sleep.
Okay, everyone, I'm going to interrupt this fantastic discussion for a moment to tell you about our amazing expanding natural supplement store, my uniquely formulated natural supplements. We have immune support, bone support, memory support, heart support, and sleep support. Links down below. High quality supplements. We're very proud to be made in the USA, and we work with a veteran-owned company. I'm also very excited. Keep an eye out for this. Our upcoming organic chai tea mix, based on the tea that I've been consuming for many years. A health and well-being tea. ohighwellness.com if you're in the USA, North America. ohighwellness.co if you're in the UK, Europe. Check the links down below. Okay, back to the discussion. That's true. Yeah. And I always advise people on sleep at any age, but particularly above a certain age, that the same rules really apply to have a winding down routine. Don't look at bright screens late. Don't eat a meal too late. Don't drink lots of fluid before you go to bed, and keep the room as cool as possible. And I do meet a lot of people who still have sleep problems now. We talked about this before, but I'm really not a fan, especially over the age of 60, at these powerful prescription medications. But I do meet a lot of people who over-the-counter medications work really well for something gentle like a melatonin or a magnesium, well before going to the powerful medications, which can really knock people out and have a hangover effect. But really make this a priority if you feel like you need to do so. One other thing I'd like to add is a lot of people after they retire, I've noticed, get into certain bad habits like napping, which is not a good idea.
That's so
you should
true.
sleep.
Yeah. I mean, it's about having a daily rhythm.
Exactly.
All right. And I think probably that's what you're hitting on, is just that daily rhythm will carry you throughout the day. Your day will be better. You'll be happier. You'll sleep better at night.
Yeah, very true. So hopefully you can work on that if that's an issue for you. Let's talk about general attitude towards life and how a lot of people that I see, and I know you do as well, in their 80s and 90s who are very sprightly. Yes, they're doing a lot of things right. Their diet is good. They don't overeat. They are moving, but they also have a fantastic attitude. A lot of them are tremendous fun.
That's right.
Oh,
I think
totally agree.
fun is, no, go ahead, Peter.
No. I mean, that's what I love in my practice. I love seeing patients. I love seeing patients and people that have great marriages and when people have been married for so long and have just such a beautiful relationship and that carries well. And it's really just enlightening.
Yeah, they're looking forward to things, and the amount of people I meet in their 80s and 90s who are doing community activities and they're going out and having fun. It's tremendous.
Yeah, I think you just need to find activities that you really enjoy and really kind of push those and get involved with groups, because then you're ticking multiple boxes, including
That's true.
socialization.
Yeah.
And just find things that you find interesting and that stimulate you and that you're really enjoying. I mean, it's funny. When I was trying to figure out books, sometimes I would try to buy these books that were very educational and stuff, and I was having trouble getting through them. And my wife was like, "Just read something you enjoy. Just enjoy it." And it helped a lot. And I think that's a really important thing. Just find things you enjoy doing and really celebrate them. And I think it makes your life better.
That's true. And I want to get your take on one other thing, which is slightly amusing, which I've witnessed so many times in the hospital, is I can't tell you the amount of times I have had the honor of taking care of a really sprightly 80 or 90-year-old lady, and they're doing everything right, and they just have a wonderful attitude. And I'll often ask these people, because I'm super interested, I'll say, what is your lifestyle? What's your secret? And so many of them tell me, I have a cocktail every evening. I think the late Queen of England also did this. Now, we're not advocating that people drink, but I just find this fascinating. Well, a small level of drinking isn't necessarily harmful, but have you seen similar things as well?
I have seen that.
Yeah.
I think that goes along with fun.
Yeah.
Right? So that's enjoying life and, not overdoing it, moderation. A lot of countries, that's very common to have a drink very regularly or night with friends.
It's so true. I have a very sweet couple. I mean, they've been married, I think at this point, over 65 years, and they call it tea time. And I really, I started thinking about that more, and it's really, it's about the drink, but it's just that ritual of, you meet together at a certain time and you have that drink together. And it's just that time during the day where you just connect at that deeper level. And I have several patients that do that. I've one couple that I think about right now that I always found it's like a privilege to.
It is, yeah. And we're not advocating that people do this if they don't, but we're telling the truth. I mean, that is so common. I see that scenario in the hospital. They will say, and they'll wink often, these older people. It's so much fun. And they'll say, oh, I have a cocktail every night and I can't have one now, in the hospital. But that's what I see. Let's talk about purpose a little bit. Now, of course, purpose it's a cliche, and the truth is, as human beings, we need purpose. And if you're in this age category, you have a lifetime of wisdom, you've achieved so much, worked hard your whole life. And that can often be a question as well. But I'm of the firm belief that humans are purposeful animals, and whatever your purpose is, whether it's something related to family, even going on a nice vacation, just having something to look forward to is so important for being happy and healthy.
And that's so true, Suneel. I think people, and we all prepare financially for retirement. People awfully don't prepare mentally, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where the purpose comes in. And you need to get involved in hobbies and activities that keep you active. And it goes down to all the points we just talked about. That all increases socialization and quality of life.
I think you're absolutely right. I think in America, as well as other similar countries, everyone's work or their job becomes their purpose, and it gets very kind of muddy and unclear when you stop. What am I supposed to be doing now? What is my purpose? Purpose does not have to be work. There's a lot of other things, helping people, helping your neighbors, helping your community, helping your family, being involved. There's so many different things that can be your purpose. That can be, staying healthy, staying, fit. Those can be part of your purpose. There are so many things to focus on that I think can keep you going and be something to focus on.
Yeah. And I would say, work also can be another purpose too. I mean, people retire from one job, but you may have this other passion career that you would really like. Like I always thought if I wasn't a doctor, I'd be like a chef. All right. Which, thank you. But I think that the training of that's probably, even harder. But just things like that, like things you've always wanted to do in your life, this is the time to do it, to chase that, passion that you have. And it can be a hobby or it can be a second career. And I've known many people and many doctors as well that worked well into their 80s and even their 90s. And it just, it's just that mental stimulation. It's physical and mental stimulation.
Yeah, really important. Well, we do hope that that was helpful to you. And we would like to tell you that anything you do, of course, make sure that it's right for you, whether we're talking about activity or change in diet. Super important that everything is tailored to wherever you are. And let's sum up now. Now, I would say that for anybody out there, if you are somebody that you know that you're getting older and you know that maybe health problems are creeping in, please don't accept anything as inevitable. Nothing is inevitable. There are so many things you can do. We've gone through a few tick boxes here to try to stay healthy, to do everything as naturally as possible and slow down the aging process from diet to exercise to having fun to being social. All any of us can do is our best. But when I think of the healthiest people I know in their 80s or 90s, it's fairly universal that they're doing most of these things.
That's so true, Suneel. Healthy aging and embracing the age you're at. And, I think the one thing that we never mentioned in this whole talk about living longer is medications.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really not just about that. It's really about the natural way of improving your health.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely. I think if you're watching this, you're already concerned about these issues. So, see if this works for you. Go through these and we'll have many more similar to this.
Absolutely. Okay, everyone. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy, stay well, and we will see you again very soon.